Hey, everybody, we're here with Danny Cashman. I want to thank you so much for being here live from Bangor. Danny, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be coming off a real high at the moment. I mean, it's been basically the talk of not just the town, it's the talk of in Maine. Everybody is going, wow, this was really exceptional. And we'll touch on it soon. But you had a really extra special, awesome surprise guest on. And I'd love to know more about that. But we just wanted to kind of explain to everybody a little bit about your show from the few folks that know a lot now, but may not have known a little bit about it. So you started this show when you were like, I think 17, 18, 19 years old back in Bangor.
Yeah, I started at 19 years old. I think I started talking about it at 18. Um, it was always a dream of mine from the moment I started watching David Letterman at the age of 9 to do what he did. And it's a great thing about Maine is if you want to do something, chances are you can find a way to do it somewhere. So at the age of 19, I started this show, The Night Show, on Bangor's WB affiliate, and it was very small scale. We recorded the first season in the Old Town Community Center, not exactly ripe for a television production. Um, but we got our feet wet. We learned a lot of mistakes. We learned from those mistakes, and it kind of gave us the foundation to do what we're doing to even today. So it was a young age to get started, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
Well, I'd actually heard in the research kind of a story about how the original budget for the show, you kept it in a Cool Whip container. Now, this is way back when. So it's good to get that kind of idea of how young you guys were and then kind of how it morphed over the years. But what was there funny stories about that?
Yeah, I remember the Cool Whip Bowl, and it was cash. I mean, there was no checking account associated with the show, and trying to cash a check made out to the night show proved to be problematic. So we had to figure that out. And then at one point, I brought my taxes to, I don't know, H&R Block or something like that. And I said, I got this TV show. Do I need to do taxes for the TV show? And the person asked me about the how much income it generated, and I told them, and they busted out laughing. And I said, all right, well, I guess the Cool Whip Bowl is where all of the secrets will stay.
Right, exactly. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about like as the show morphed. You do PR by day. You're a dad. You have a TV show. How do you juggle all of these different facets of your life? I mean, is it possible to do all of that in one 24-hour period?
No, it's not. But I love everything that I'm doing. I love my job and doing public relations. Every day is a little bit different. And the people I work for at Sutherland Weston give me the freedom to do uh, these passion projects that I have, which one of those is the TV show, and another one is a nonprofit that I co-founded, and I'm the chair of the board now. It's an organization called Dirigo Reads, and it provides books for first graders throughout Maine, including all of the first graders in Portland Public Schools and surrounding communities as well. Um, so those things are things that I just love doing. I worked for a time for Governor John Baldacci, and he said, "You work your job from 9 to 5. You work your passion from 5 to 9." And I thought he meant 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. So I just keep going overnight, and apparently that's not what he meant.
How did the new version of the show, and that formed pretty much about 20 years ago, would you say, or
Around 15
15,
years ago,
15 years
yeah.
ago? Okay.
Um, it was 2009. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who said, "Would you ever want to bring the show back?" And I said, "Well, maybe, but it would have to be done right." And I started outlining the way that I would want to do it. And I didn't even realize I had a concept in my head until I started talking about it. But I guess it had just sat there for so long that I had developed this idea of here's how we're going to do it, and this is the way we're going to get it done. And I was very specific and intentional with three areas. I wanted to make sure it ran on Channel 5 up here, our CBS station. NBC had Saturday Night Live. They weren't going to bump that. And ABC had college football that always ran late. So I said, it's got to run on the CBS station, has to be a place with an audience, and it has to be shot by a crew that knows what they're doing. I honestly didn't really think about it how difficult it would be to get one of those things done because I didn't think I really wanted to do it again. I figured it was just done. And then this person convinced me to have a conversation with the New England School of Communications at Husten University, and I did, and they were excited about it. So I crossed the street, went to Channel 5, and had a conversation with their program director. After a couple of weeks, he said, "We can give you 11:30 on Saturday nights." I said, "Well, shoot, I'll find a place to do it." So I went to find a place to do it,
Yeah.
and the rest is history. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like a literal stroke of genius in the sense that, I first had seen it in Bar Harbor where I'd go in the summers and we were going, is this in Maine? How is this possible? Because it's so rare that you would have a big theater like this. You have a band. There's just all of these things. And so it's not that it wouldn't have been possible, but it would have been probably a lot more difficult had you not been able to partner with Husten, the School of Communications. You guys have worked hand in hand for that whole amount of time. And it seems as though it was a kind of an instant hit. So yeah.
yeah, we've been fortunate. And when we all sort of agreed between myself and the TV stations and the school, if any of us decided that it wasn't working for us anymore, we were going to stop at the next logical point. We weren't going to argue it. We weren't going to debate it. If it wasn't working, we trusted each other to be truthful about it. And it worked. The school has been really happy, and one of the things you'll see on our retrospective show, our very last episode, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, but this just is a great example. We did a little highlight reel of some fun we had with students at NESCOM and at Hussen over the years, and then we revealed behind our flyaway wall a group of alum that had come back just for this last episode. I didn't know how many were there, and just to show you that we're still learning, our cue card guy was standing right in front of my monitor, so I also couldn't see anything. And the flyaway wall went up, and I continued talking, and then I went around the corner of the desk to shake everyone's hand, and there were nearly 3 dozen people there, and they came from far away. Some of them were in Maine, but some of them came from Connecticut and California and Indiana, and they flew in or drove in just to be there for the final show. And it really, I'm not an educator. I would like to be, but I'm not. But I didn't recognize when we first started how impactful that would be to see people work on this show and then go on and do amazing things and stay in touch. So it clearly worked for the students and for the program at NESCOM. It worked for the TV station, and I think this is the greatest ride I ever could have taken doing this show. So it worked for 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I find that to be super interesting in the sense that it's almost like, yeah, you were a professor in the advanced class because all these people, no, put you in that pigeonhole, yeah. But well, but I mean, for experiential learning, we actually have a person who has recently got a job here at the station in Portland. He has worked on your show. There's been a lot of people because he went to Hussen for television and film. So there are folks all over the place. You have your kind of your minions of people that have come from there, learned, and gone to other places. But what I wanted to ask you about in the kind of 15 years of all this, you had like Pat Dempsey, Ed Asner. I know the gentleman who I always want to remember his name because I know him from when I was a kid on Double Dare, and he's got what's his name again? Mark Summers, exactly. And he has a one-man show on Broadway, or at least it was playing up until that was very popular. And I know we've had a lot of real interesting local folks from 207, Amanda Hill. We see all kinds of people. What was the guest other than David Letterman that you were kind of like the most starstruck, most like, wow, I can't believe this person is on here. Has there been a lot of those or guests that you really wanted to land, but you never had a chance to?
Letterman was always the one I wanted to land that I didn't think would happen until it did. There were some others, but Letterman was always on top of that list, and it was light years ahead of whoever the number two would have been. There are some that I would have liked to have had at some point, people that I look up to or I'm a big fan of. I would have loved to have had Stephen King on the show because he's Mr. Bangor, writes about Bangor and under the name of Derry in his books, and it would have been lovely to have him on the show, but I get it. He's very, very busy, and we just couldn't make it happen. I'm a big fan of the singer Jewel. We reached out to her several times, and that didn't happen. I mentioned Dawson's Creek on the WB. I grew up with a little bit of a crush, or maybe a big crush, on Katie Holmes. That never happened. And, probably for the best. I think they sensed I had a little bit of a crush on her, and it probably wasn't a good idea to send her here. Tom Cruise would have come running after me. But we've been really fortunate. I think I've been starstruck, but I spent when I started watching David Letterman when I was 9, it didn't take me very long to start pretending I was a talk show host in my bedroom and doing things that I'm sure my parents would be ashamed about if they knew of them, like talking to nobody in my room as though I was interviewing them, and trying to tell jokes from this desk up against a wall in my room, pretending there was an audience watching me. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to work on doing this in a place that thankfully nobody saw it. So I sort of, back then and now, emulated the people that I loved watching, Dave and Johnny, and more recently Conan and Jimmy Kimmel. And I don't want to sound too deep about this, but I do think there's a certain surrealness that comes over me when I'm in that position where I just kind of become show Dan, and I try to put on my show face, and then when it's over, I become regular Dan. And so the starstruck piece of it doesn't happen because I got to be show Dan when I first meet them. And in every case, I waited until they were on stage for me to meet them. I didn't meet Ed Asner backstage. I didn't meet Patrick Dempsey backstage. And that's mostly the case with anybody that I've had on the show. I usually wait until they're on stage before I talk with them. And I think that eliminates a little bit of it. I will say when David Letterman walked out, I hadn't seen him yet. I had never talked with him. And I started losing some strength in my legs, and I thought it would be weird if I collapsed in that moment. So I took a brief second to kind of like compose myself, kind of crouch down, take a deep breath, and then come back to reality.
Well, I wanted to give the people out here watching also the enormity of sometimes the crowds in the shows too, because I went to fully packed out in like Westbrook Gorham when you were playing here. That must have been that. I mean, thousands of people or a big group of people all packed in together. So it's not as though you and I are doing this in an intimate stage. Do you get any butterflies or anything? I mean, that's you're doing it out there without a net for not only the people on the couch, but there's a lot of people there right in the audience.
Yeah, we do have a safety net, and that's our audience warm-up guy and our audience liaison. So just like any show that you go see in New York or LA when they have applause signs, we had a guy that's our applause sign, and he's doing this, getting people to applaud. The laughs are genuine because we don't have a laugh guy. We we have an applause guy. So there is a little bit of a safety net there for me. I think if I were doing this without that guy, it would be more difficult and a little bit more challenging. But that guy also goes out and warms up the crowd before I even set foot out there. So he's talking to the crowd, he's making them laugh, telling them logistical things. Our band plays a little bit. And then by the time I come out, we know they're ready to have a good time. So that is a little bit of a safety net. I stopped getting butterflies because of the audience, though. My butterflies come from whether or not I remember everything that's going to happen.
Yes.
I have a rundown on my desk on my computer. I have cue cards. I have little slips of paper. But there's still this element of when I'm standing backstage, I got nothing. I don't have anything in my pockets that tell me what's going on. I don't have anything taped to the wall. And so in that moment, when the theme song's playing, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, I hope we have everything outlined correctly. And if you don't, it's embarrassing. And thankfully, we have a good team in place that always made that happen.
Yeah, and I think as they talk about like the 10,000 hours, if you put in to become kind of an expert at it, and year after year, you got better, I'm sure, and the butterflies kind of, it becomes old hat. I think I read somewhere in my research maybe over 600 episodes. Does that sound right? Yeah.
Dating back to the show in the late 90s, I think we eclipsed 700 episodes. But if we're just talking about this most recent version, 2010 to 2025, it's a hair under 600.
Yeah. And before we go on with the final season, could you just tell the audience a little bit, just to give some promotion to the guys that work with you? Like you have a band. Could you tell a little bit about those guys so they get some credit too?
Of course, Brian Netto and the Night Show Band is our house band, and Brian Netto is not just the name on the band, but he is a genius musically and a heck of a good friend. If people pay really close attention during the show, if they watch every week, you'll notice, or you may notice, that every guest that walks out there has music that they walk out to. And those are chosen for specific reasons. It might be a play on words with their name. It might be something to do with a piece of work that they've done. It might be something else that is very much an Easter egg that you'd have to find. But Brian puts a lot of work into curating that music and making sure the band is ready to perform that music. And they have to back up musicians with frequency. They backed up a friend of your show, Elena Hubble. She performed a couple of original tunes, and her whole band couldn't make it, so our band backed her up, and they learned those charts, and I think that everything came together pretty flawlessly. The amount of curveballs that they are thrown at every taping is challenging, and I think that they are deserving of all sorts of credit in terms of making the show tick. So that's Brian Netto and the Night Show Band, and that involves Mike Borgia on drums, Lincoln Blake on keyboard, David Clark on guitar, Bob Roman on bass, Jim Winters on trombone, Steve Orlovsky on saxophone, and Brian Netto on trumpet. And then we have Mark Nason, who's the announcer on the show, and he's also our audience guy, so he pulls double duty. We have Michael and Jennifer Murphy, who, if you go on our Facebook page and see hundreds and hundreds of photos, they come from the Murphys. Their business is Whittling Fogg Photography. And we also have Luke Bushard is one of the executive producers. Rodney Verrill's one of the executive producers. And Sue Potvin is a jack of all trades that does everything from producing segments to being sort of the backstage wrangler and making sure that everybody knows what they're doing and where they're supposed to go. It takes a small army to make a show like this tick. In fact, it takes a large army to make a show like this tick. But because we're Mainers and have Yankee ingenuity, we've done it with a small army. And the team we have in place right now is second to none.
Yeah, we went backstage because we did a piece backstage when you were in Westbrook, Gorham. And we got to see for ourselves. I mean, cables running everywhere, people running craft service. I mean, it was a big event. We were like, wow, this is a lot going on, and we got a chance to touch into it a little bit. What I wanted to talk to you about was that kind of leading into the final season, like a lot of shows, it kind of ends, but you had a very special element to it because you decided you were going to announce, the final season, I think a year in advance, kind of do the lead up. In that year, was there any highs, lows? What did that year feel like? Emotional, different parts to it?
Yeah. Yeah. Choosing to announce it a year out was, a lot of people questioned that, wondering why we would announce it so far out. But, because we work with the school and because we have such a big team and because we've done it for, at that point, 14 years, I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to invite back some of our favorite guests and get that last chance at some of the dream guests and be able to kind of wind things down from the school's perspective and make sure that they were in a good place. And we had advertisers that had committed for so long. We wanted to make sure that everything ended smoothly, and I think it worked out just the way we wanted it to. There were a lot of high points. I don't know that there were any low points. People brought it, from guests to our writers, to our producers, to our band, to everybody. They brought it all together. Brian Netto and the Night Show Band surprised me with a performance. The drummer in that band is an old friend of mine. We went to high school together, and he sort of put this band together 15 years ago when I asked him if he would maybe contact a few musicians. I didn't know he was going to contact some all-star musicians and put together this band. Um, but they did a version of Saturday in the Park by Chicago. I love the horn lines in that song. I love the words in that song. I love that song. And Mike, my friend, who I didn't know could sing this well, did the vocals on it and performed it live in front of the audience. It was a complete shock and surprise to me. And that was such a highlight for me. Um, there were some special musical performances actually throughout the year that were just phenomenal, and I won't forget them. We brought back a performance of Christmas Baby Please Come Home, which is my favorite Christmas song. So we had strings and a chorus and extra horns, and it was great. We stopped doing it for a little while. I wish we hadn't, but we brought it back, and it was good to do that. And the guests that came back, and those that appeared for the first time, there was a different feeling to it. People were they brought their A game, and it elevated the entire show. Um, I don't I can't think of any low points really. I'm sure our viewers could, but
Right.
I think everything went pretty well.
I think you did it the right way, and what I really was excited to talk to you about, because we'll be airing this show the night before the big episode with your surprise guest. It's not, as I said before, a surprise really to anybody. It's the talk of all of Maine. Everybody says, "Oh, Danny Cashman, that he has David Letterman." So I know you don't really want to talk too much about a lot of the things that are the details of it, in which, I think that'd be great. We want to wait to watch it ourselves. But what was it like having him there? What was kind of the whole lead up? I mean, is it possible to tell us how did this happen? Any of the fun details?
I mean, the how it happened is a classic example of never giving up on something. Um, I mentioned he was always the dream guest, and I was never shy about telling anybody that. And um, I think in every conversation I've ever had with anybody about uh, David Letterman, it's been expressing my admiration and respect, and um, the fact that he's such an inspiration, not just for me, but for so many people. And all of that is true. I've never deviated from that. So I've said that publicly. I've said it privately, and I think um, sometimes moons just align right. And I'm very fortunate to have people in my life that have liked what we've done on this show, and they've been helpful in many different ways. And some of those people helped kind of connect people and dots together to bring this over the finish line. What was it like when he was there? There was a buzz, there was an energy in that room, and that translated from some of the students who might have been, 8, 9 years old when he went off the air 10 years ago, to a definite buzz in the audience even before he came out. They knew something special was about to happen. You're right. Everybody knows now. We've been promoting it. It's been in the
Right.
paper. It's been on
Cat's out of the
TV.
bag. Yeah.
But in the audience that night, nobody knew. They
Yeah.
just knew there was a mystery guest. And even friends of mine who have known, they had to sit there and listen to me talk endlessly about what was on Letterman the night before in high school. They never believed this would have happened. They were making guesses that were pretty good. We had Cooper Flagg. People were guessing Cooper Flagg. People were guessing Bill Belichick because his girlfriend's from Maine. Somebody guessed President Trump. Somebody guessed President Obama. Like, the guesses were good,
Yeah.
but I tried to have the same answer for all of them, which was I can't say a word.
Yeah.
And even the two or three people that guessed Letterman, I said something like, don't you think I'd be more excited if you were coming on our show?
Mm.
And so people just didn't expect it. And I hope I never forget the reaction when I announced his name. And then he gave it, you'll see on the show, he gave it a little while before he walked out after I announced him. And the energy level doubled when he walked through the door. And it was a very, very cool night. And it was a unbelievable way to wrap this whole thing up.
Yeah, I mean, from the shots that I saw of it, it looked like it was such a good time. And he sat down with you. Was he on for the first guest, or was it
He's the only guest.
only guest?
In
Yeah,
fact, he could have hosted the whole damn show if he
yeah,
wanted
he's
to.
just that
I would
quick,
have been
right?
fine with it.
Yeah.
He the so we talked a little bit longer because he had a lot to say, and that was heartwarming. Everything about it was heartwarming. So we're actually on for an hour tomorrow night when it's on. So at 10:30 on Fox 23, it'll be on for an hour. All of the stations are giving us an hour for this episode. So
So if you're
you'll get to see sort of an
DVRing it,
extended
yeah.
interview with Dave, and he did his homework. I mean, he talked a lot about Bangor and talked a lot about Maine, um, and he talked a lot about our show and also his own challenges when he gave up his show. Of course, he has other shows now, but um, he he was very, very open, honest, sincere, and funny, and it was a great first date.
Yeah, because he has a show now, but it's so different, obviously, the Netflix than to be like yourself, where you're doing topical humor, and it's much more in the day to day grind of things. I was going to say, for people out there setting your DVRs, this is not the half hour episode. This is a full hour, going from 11 till midnight.
10:30 to 11:30 in
10:30 to
Portland, and then
11:30.
if you're watching us on CBS 13, it's from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a full hour, and it should show that way in the schedule. So if you're setting your DVR, it should get the full hour.
And is this one of the ones well, I should save that because I was going to say if people can see this after the fact on social media, but you don't want to put that out there because you want people to watch it live when it happens.
Well, yeah, we put clips up on social media, but it's never the full show.
Never
So
the
if you
full
want to
show,
see
yeah.
everything that happened, then you
Yep.
have to watch it on
You have to
television.
tune in and watch. So the last show that you'll be doing is kind of a guest-free. It's like a more retrospective. Can you tell people a little bit about that show?
Yeah. So we had I would say four or five, maybe six different segments we were going to figure out which the best three would be to put in this final show. And it really is a look back, a culmination of 15 years, some things that were important to us, and then sort of a highlight reel, if you will, of some of our favorite moments. And I think we hit the right tone based on the feedback we got from the audience that was there that night. It's difficult. I've watched every late night talk show's final episode, from Carson to Leno to Letterman to Conan and they all handled it a little bit differently. And I think that we hit the things that were important to us with our own sort of unique spin, but also it's familiar enough in its tone and content for people to recognize that this is our final show.
So we had one last question from one of our producers. They were saying, after the show goes off the air, do you think you'll now be able to go to bed before midnight? And if so, will you be just staying up and heckling the TV from your couch instead?
No, I keep odd hours for sure. I am an early bird and I'm also a night owl, and those two don't always line up. So I'll still be staying up past midnight. I'll still be watching the late night shows. And I won't be heckling because I have an appreciation for everybody who does this kind of a format, and whether that's local, regional, national. It's not easy, and it's not easy from where I sat, and we were very small potatoes compared to the people who do it 5 nights a week on a national scale. I mean, I have my thoughts for sure on what works and what doesn't work, what is gold and what's crap. But for the most part, I appreciate everybody who's doing it. And even the show After Midnight on CBS that's going off this June with Taylor Tomlinson, they carved out their own little section of the late night landscape, and it's sad to see that just go away. So I'll still be watching. I'm anxious to see the John Mulaney show on Netflix that he's been doing. Everybody's Live with John Mulaney. I love that Jon Stewart's back in the space on The Daily Show once a week. Kimmel's my go-to on a weeknight basis, but I still love watching Colbert and Fallon and Myers, and I'm still going to be there. I started before we started this show. I was a super fan. I'm still a super fan, and I don't see that ever going away.
And you have more time to run marathons. I know you were doing a little bit of the marathon running and staying fit.
I signed up for the New York Marathon, which is November 2nd, and I'm gonna tell all my New York friends that I'll be there. It's the only way I can be held accountable to make sure I cross that finish line.
Yes, yeah, and that's a lot of these ones you have to really do well, and other ones to even get into them. So I know you've been serious. Yeah, not so much on this one.
Not if you get what's called a charity bib. If you raise money, they'll let anybody in. So,
well, but
yeah,
you'd be raising money.
I didn't qualify, but I will gladly take any donations from your audience to help.
Yes, and is that run going to be a charity run? Is there something that we could promote now while we have you?
Sure, absolutely. It's to benefit a team or an organization called Team for Kids, and this organization raises money so that kids in the tri-state area are able to run road races without having to pay the fee if their family can't swing it. So it still gives them the opportunity to train and engage in a competitive, healthy lifestyle activity, but not worry about the financial implications. I think it's a wonderful cause, and I really am touched that they don't accept everybody. There's a limit for these, but I'm touched that they accepted me on their team, and I haven't started raising money yet, but I guess tonight's as good as any. So I'll happily accept any and all donations.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on Friday PM. We're definitely going to be watching tomorrow night. Check your local listings for that. It's going to be playing all through Maine. I know you play in Canada and some parts as well. We've talked about that before. I want to thank you so much for being so gracious to be on our show over these years. We're a little scrappy little show, and you've been very great to us. And so I'm sad to see your show going, but I know we're going to connect on some other things down the road too. And I thank you so much, Danny. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure joining you.